Hey guys, what's good? It is September the 8th, 2025. It's Shane's World News Views podcast. I missed doing an episode last week, so I will come with two this week to make up for the one that I missed last week. So most of this episode is going to touch on last week's world news, and I'll throw some sports in if I have any, which I have a little bit, I think. And it's mainly going to be, I'll do another one this week that will touch on this week's news, but we'll start off with the DOJ. They fired a staffer for flipping off the National Guard. So, I mean, the National Guard is there to protect everyone in DC, and you have an idiot that goes out there and flips them off. So that staffer is terminated. Fucking idiot. On to the next. President Trump, he had noticed a gash in the stone at the White House on the Rose Garden patio. So the contractors were fired, or the contractor was fired. All the workers are gone. Basically, he doesn't know if it was like a political thing or it was just an accident or whatever. But either way, can't have that kind of a fuck up. So they're gone. New ones will be hired to do the work from now on at the White House. On to the next. The Trump administration is removing all illegals from Section 8 housing. So nothing wrong with that. The illegals shouldn't have any benefits. If you're illegal and you come into this country, you need to be removed and come into this country legally. I say this every episode. On to the next. Speaking of corrupt judges, which I'm going to, there's a few, unfortunately. So a Biden-appointed judge blocked the Trump administration's fast deportations. So, of course, that's, just trying to block us deporting, getting illegals out of the country. On to the next. A federal judge said that President Trump violated military law by activating National Guard in California. Okay, more bullshit, but okay. This is just, again, Biden and Obama appointed judges mostly. They're all stepping in the middle and just trying to slow down the process of the Trump administration. But at the end of the day, it's not going to work. Also, today, they upheld E. Jean Carroll, the money that was awarded to her. So President Trump, for now, has to pay that money. But I still think in the long run, he won't have to pay it. This is, again, for, she's assuming that she's saying he raped her by basically just looking at her in a sexual manner, just glancing her up and down at a department store. It's a complete fucking joke. He shouldn't have to pay any of this. But right now, an appeals court upheld the decision. So for now, President Trump's going to have to pay the money that he's owed E. Jean Carroll. But we'll see what happens going forward. On to the next. Let's see what we got here next. Rudy Giuliani, he was injured in a car accident. He was struck from behind. It was in Manchester, New Hampshire. He suffered fractured vertebrae and he had some other injuries, but I believe he's out of the hospital right now and he's doing well. So that's a good thing. Rudy's a good man. And also, let's see what else we got, because we got a good amount of stuff. The Department of Homeland Security, they will allot $110 million to more than 600 faith-based organizations and nonprofits for security improvements. So, I mean, that's a good thing. You need security at these churches, for sure. All the shit that's been going on, the shootings that just happened recently, that's a great thing. And the Trump administration, they did approve an arms sale of an $825 million. It's that they're going to be that will be in return that the Ukraine will be paying for, an arms deal where they're getting weaponry to help themselves in this war with Russia, where Putin had said, he wants Zelensky to come to Russia to meet, where Zelensky says that he wants Putin to come to the Ukraine for a meeting. So we'll see what happens. For now, we still have soldiers and innocent people dying, which isn't a good thing. So hopefully the war gets ended soon there. Mark Teixeira, former New York Yankee, a part of the 2009 World Series championship team, he announced that he's going to be running for Congress in the state of Texas as a Republican. So that's a great thing. Hope Teixeira wins that position. And President Trump is demanding drug companies release COVID info. So this is like all the shit from COVID that, they're not releasing, they're not releasing enough information on, deaths that occurred, how they occurred. They're also known for marking down people that got hit by cars and, ran over, in whatever. In any case, the way they died, car crashes, whatever. But if they had COVID at one point before they died, they marked them as a COVID death so they can make more money. It's more corrupted shit. So they need to release all the information and put it out there for the public. On to the next. President Trump, he wants insane asylums back. So, we do have, so-called mental institutions, but insane asylums, he wants that tag back. So there's not, unfortunately, we have way too many crazy people in this country. And there's nothing wrong. We need more insane asylums, mental institutions. We need them to contain these people until they get better. And if they don't get better, they need to just stay there. On to the next. Another corrupted judge, a Biden-appointed judge, is blocking Guatemalan children to being deported back to Guatemala, where they came from. So that's, there's several of these. Like some of these stories, like I always say, they're a little bit mixed up sometimes because I'm kind of jotting them down. I'm keeping notes as the week goes on in order. So, there may be this kind of a story on a Monday, and then there may be another one on a Thursday. Sometimes I'll try to put them together. Sometimes I'm just leaving them in that order. So in case I come back and I have another story that, that's similar, that's why. On to the next. There was 3 different earthquakes, the last I heard, in Afghanistan that killed 2,200 people at least. So that's a horrible incident. So it's just unfortunate. On to the next. Going back to Rudy Giuliani, President Trump says that he recommends that he get a Presidential Medal of Freedom for all his accomplishments that he's done in this country, for being a good United States citizen, for helping the city of New York. So when he was in office, so when he was the mayor. So Rudy Giuliani is a great guy. So he totally deserves that. Congressman Jerry Nadler of New York, a corrupted individual. He's not seeking re-election, so that's a good thing. We need that piece of shit out. President Trump, there is a portrait of the Biden auto pen in the White House. So kind of a funny thing, but a sad thing at the same time that these, all this shit was signed by auto pens, supposedly, all these executive orders. So, but President Trump is putting some humor on it for right now by having that portrait up in the White House. There was multiple members of the Michigan Democratic Party, the council members, that were busted for election fraud. Of course, like counting votes that weren't supposed to be counted, all that kind of shit. So I don't need to name these clowns. They were arrested, so that's a good thing. And you'll be seeing a lot more arrests coming. To more serious, bigger names, that's for sure. Robert Mueller, speaking of corrupt, he's a former FBI director involved in Russiagate. They're saying after that he doesn't he doesn't have to face questions anymore because of Parkinson's. They wanted him to come in and face Congress, and they were going to ask him all kinds of questions. And now his family came out and said he has Parkinson's, so they basically say he doesn't have to come anymore. I think he should go regardless of him having Parkinson's or not, and he should answer all those questions. Because he's definitely a part of Russiagate and smearing President Donald Trump, and he needs to be held accountable. Federal court rules that the Trump administration can cancel $16 billion in Joe Biden climate funds. So this is just money that was invested in unnecessary climate shit, and probably a bunch of people getting kickbacks. So now that $16 billion is canceled. So that's a good thing. In the state of Chicago, the last I heard, there was 8 dead. Actually, one report I heard 9 dead last week, and 50 wounded in shootings. And it just, the National Guard's going to have to be sent there. governor, the mayor, they don't want shit. They want it. They just make every excuse for the National Guard not being there to help clean this mess up as soon as possible. And President Trump's gonna send them in one way or the other. I guarantee you that. On to the next $427 million wind project. It was supposed to, happen in the state of California, intended for construction of a marine terminal to support offshore wind energy. That was canceled by the Trump administration. So Gavin Newsom is probably crying about that, the corrupted governor of California. On to the next. President Trump says the Space Command headquarters is moving to Alabama from Colorado because of the Colorado mail-in voting system. The way that they handle things over there, a lot of corrupt shit going on. So that's a good thing that the space headquarters is moving and going to the state of Alabama. President Trump, he's been declaring war on cartels, the drug cartels. There was 11 killed on a drug-carrying vessel from Venezuela last week, and there was 10 stealth fighter planes that were sent to Puerto Rico also to halt the war on drugs coming into this country. So there's nothing wrong to that. Our military is going to help, eliminate this, and it's a great thing. We don't need any more drugs and unnecessary deaths in this country. The Epstein documents, they released 33,295 pages. So the House Oversight Committee released this. It's a lot of the stuff that a lot of people have been hearing already. I don't think there's anything totally new in those pages, but I didn't really totally read up on them. I got to do more about that. I got to look into it more. There was also a DOJ official that was on camera that James O'Keefe Media Group, they had this guy on camera, of course, not knowingly, or maybe he assumed, to when he said that, the Republicans are trying to keep Republican names out of the documents and try to keep all the Democrat names in. So maybe he just assumed that this person that he was out and, that was questioning him, and he thought he was on a date or whatever, and that he sensed that it was something was going to go, was being recorded or something, and he happened to say that. I mean, who knows? We'll see what happens. A federal appeals court reinstated Rebecca Kelly Slaughter, a Federal Trade Commission commissioner that President Trump had fired. So for this lady to be fired, President Trump had to have a great reason. She's obviously not doing her job the right way, or she's corrupted. Well, she's been reinstated for now, but we'll see what comes about of that. Georgia state courts order corrupted Fannie Willis, another one who brought criminal charges upon President Trump, to conduct new research for records as search methods were inadequate. So, of course, she's making up all kinds of shit. She doesn't have the correct data, the correct information. So she's another one that will be, found guilty of a lot of bullshit and crime in the long run. There was supposedly an object that was thrown out of a White House window, but President Trump is saying it was probably AI, because those windows, there's nothing going out of those windows. Those windows are bulletproof. There's nothing opening. There's nothing broken on those windows for anything to be thrown out. They said it was some kind of a black bag that people were reporting that got thrown out of one of the White House windows. President Trump says that's bullshit. Polish President Karol Nawrocki was at the White House visiting last week. It's always good when you have other world leaders there, talking world business with President Trump. Florida is eliminating all mandatory school vaccines, COVID vaccines. So the Florida Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo, he announced that. So that's a great thing. These kids should not be mandatory anything, and especially putting COVID in their fucking bodies. So that's a great thing. Chicago Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, she's releasing all these videos, kind of like, I from what I was told, just basically encouraging illegal immigrants to like hide, or even suggesting when ICE is coming to the area, so they know if she's doing this kind of stuff, she needs to be eliminated from her position. She needs to be fired immediately. She's corrupt. So President Trump is also saying that he's hoping that tariffs can someday replace federal income tax. So that's a great thing. President Trump, or I'm sorry, hold on, let's go to the next one. They announced the opening of another illegal immigrant detaining facility, a Louisiana lockup. Of course, that's going to be in the state of Louisiana. Alligator Alcatraz, which a corrupted judge here in Florida said that she was going to try to close down, and it should have no more prisoners, no more detainees. And that, like I said, that was not going to happen, and it's not. Alligator Alcatraz is staying open. So fuck her. On to the next. Let's see. Graham Linehan, he's a British comedian. He made some kind of like trans jokes on social media. Then he took a flight to, you know what? I don't know if I might have it backwards. I think he's an Irish comedian, and he took a flight to Britain. That's what it was. I'm sorry. And there's 5 cops there to detain him and say he's arrested for making these kind of comments. So again, it's freedom of speech. And you got cops there at the airport that are saying, because you posted this stuff about making transsexual jokes, that you're going to go to jail. So, I mean, that's fucking crazy. That's totally crazy. China, Russia, North Korea, all the leaders. So that's Xi, Putin, and the Rocket Man. They all had a meeting last week in China. And, you know, I think I was told it went good. President Trump made jokes that they're conspiring against the United States. I don't think that that's happening. He has good relationships with all 3 of those leaders. So there's 1,000 HHS workers that want RFK Jr. to resign. Of course, RFK Jr., he was being questioned by the Senate last week all about COVID and about, you know, all this shit to do with COVID and vaccines and, you know, his stance on eliminating certain ingredients from vaccines. And you had Elizabeth Warren, the corrupted senator up there, basically, you know, throwing shit at him. So he said to her, RFK Jr. told her, I know you made $855,000 off of Big Pharma, working with Big Pharma. So these people are okay with Big Pharma putting all this fucking junk in these prescriptions and vaccines. As long as they make money from it, they could care less. As long as they got perks, they could care less. And, you know, he was being questioned about the CDC, you know, where like some people there are disagreeing with, you know, his outlook on things and you know, his suggesting, you know, taking certain things out of certain foods and medications. And you got people resigning and being fired at the CDC. RFK Jr. is a good guy. Then J.D. Vance, Trump, all the Trump administration, they came out and they backed RFK Jr. They said he's a good guy, which he is, and he's all about, you know, doing things the right way, the things that we're putting in our system, foods, medicines. So, you know, RFK Jr. is a good guy, plain and simple. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, she wants Prince Andrew arrested. His name is coming out a lot in the Epstein files, documents, whatever you want to call it. I guess they have extra shit on him that kind of, you know, signals that for Nancy Mace to say this, that he should be arrested. So we'll see what happens. There's another corrupted judge that's blocking President Trump's $2.2 billion Harvard funding, which it was put on freeze because of all the fucking shit that was going on the campuses with everything with, you know, Israel and Iran and people, you know, Israel haters on the Harvard campus going out and doing like all these protests that were creating all kinds of shit. And so at the end of the day, I'm sure that, you know, this will be another one where this judge will look like a complete fool. So on to the next. Emory University in Georgia, they're discontinuing DEI programs. So again, we've been talking about DEI. I mean, that's basically, you can't just single out certain races and ethnic groups and, you know, sexes, you know, if you're straight, gay, whatever, that just keep everybody equal. That's the best way to do it. Melania Trump, she also, she said that she wants to protect all kids from AI because AI is getting crazy. So, you know, I agree with that. Pam Bondi, she announced the Joint Task Alpha, which is basically preventing, you know, smuggling in this country, but now they're focusing on the north border. So we can't have any smuggling in this country, north, south borders, whatever. So that's a good thing that we're, you know, bringing, that we're, you know, taking care of business as far as that goes. The Pentagon has been changed officially from the Department of Defense to the Department of War. So that's cool. Lisa Cook, she's getting a subpoena. She's the DOJ Federal Reserve Governor. This is regarding mortgage fraud, so she's going to have to come in and she's going to have to answer questions. I believe she will be founded as corrupted. Gain of function and child mutilation also was, RFK Jr. says that's coming to an end. So that's a great thing. Navy commander supporting wokeness was fired. This is Janelle Maya. She was supporting trans healthcare on one of her web pages or on one of her social media pages. So Pete Hegseth said that she's fired. So, good riddance. We don't need any of that. President Trump approved the UFC coming to the White House next year. I don't think there's an official date, but people are saying July 4th. We'll see what happens. And let's see. There was an FBI agent that alerted an employee from a Chinese company that was doing business with the Bidens that they were going to be investigated. So that just shows there's been a lot of corrupt shit, going on, FBI, unfortunately, DOJ, all this. You got to clean these bad people out. President Trump, he hosted a dinner last week with big tech elites like corrupted Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and Sam Altman at the White House. People were offended that Bill Gates was there, especially with all the shit going on with Gates about being involved in the Epstein documents and all the poisons that he's putting in foods and that he's okay putting in vaccines. And like they say sometimes, you got to keep your enemies closer. So I would wait and not judge President Trump for, or whoever suggested that Bill Gates should be at this event. President Trump was actually not sitting next to Bill Gates. He had Melania and his wife in the middle of him and Bill Gates. But yeah, I would say President Trump did not really look entertained or happy when Bill Gates was talking. But we'll see what comes about of Bill Gates because he's corrupted. Trust me. PBS is cutting 15% of their workers after losing $500 million in federal funding. So that's another corrupted network that's promoting all kinds of bullshit. Let's see. RFK Jr. and HHS also, they linked Tylenol usage during pregnancy to autism and developmental disorders. So that's crazy, and that's on the shelves for anybody to buy. There was 500 illegals that were arrested, or just around 500, about 475, that were arrested at a Hyundai plant in Georgia, and that's a South Korean auto company, if you didn't know. So we have all these illegals, of course, working at these types of places. They're cheaper to get to work. So they're all going to be deported. So that's a good thing. Campbell Soup announced that they're removing all synthetic food from their products their synthetic food colors by 2026. So that's a great thing. They announced that 74 hostages, we've gotten back into this country since President Trump has been back in office. So that's just since January. So that's great. They announced the G20 summit will be in Miami in 2026. And it was, this was pretty interesting. There was a tweet, I believe, by Kirill Dmitriev, who works for President Putin in Russia. And he's like his foreign investment special envoy, and he basically put a Q symbol on his Twitter, QAnon, if you didn't know, and basically President Trump was put a photo out a week ago that had him I believe holding a Q in his hand, and he said that basically we're together, the Russia and the United States are together on the QAnon project, which is against ending child trafficking. I totally know that. So that's a great thing. So we'll see what happens going forward with everything. And I'm going to come back with more. President Trump was at the U.S. Open for the final yesterday. Carlos Alcaraz won the men's championship. So, and he got a standing ovation in New York. They all love him there, no matter what the media tells you. And New York being a mostly Democratic state, he was getting standing ovations. He was getting big cheers, and everybody loved him being there. So that's a great thing. In terms of sports news, the NFL has started. I'm just going to tell you, because I'm a Raiders fan, they were victorious in New England, Foxborough, Massachusetts, over the Patriots 20-13. So they start the season 1-0. I'm not going to go over all the fucking games because that's not what I'm doing on this. I'll call out certain performances or whatever, but I'm not, as far as I'm not going over every single game. Still, basketball, hockey season is on the way. Baseball, the Yankees, they took 2 out of 3 from Toronto this last weekend, so they're 2 out of first place in the American League East, and hoping, that they'll win the division. If not, they have a playoff spot pretty much locked up. And there's really, Cal Raleigh, he's got 53 home runs now, but they're saying he has the most home runs by a catcher all time, which is untrue because all of those home runs were not hit as a catcher. Some of these home runs were hit when he was performing as a designated hitter in the game. So that's not true. When Johnny Bench had his season, I believe it was 46 home runs, they were all hit as a catcher, which was originally the record. And then Salvador Perez went ahead of him, and I believe some of his were as a designated hitter, even though most were as a catcher. And it's not the same. If you're not down catching every single game, they shouldn't count as home runs at the catcher position. Plain and simple. Anyway, that's all for this week's Shane World News Views podcast. I'll be back again at the end of this week with a new podcast and more news for this week's world news and sports. So I'll see you then. See ya.